We have an article over at conservativeplaylist.com titled Dispatch from a Broken Republic in 2030. Now, look, I'm going to just be very blunt. I didn't care for the article. It's a thought experiment. The idea here is that hey, everything fell apart and now, looking back through the years through from 2030 back until today, here's what happened, and it delivers some hypotheticals. And any look, so I didn't like it, but it's bold. Okay, the concept is great. The conclusions I think were off, but still, it's worth exploring, and it's worth looking at the concepts of what could happen. Now, I'm going to, it's a long article. Yeah, I don't know, probably 2,500 words or so. And, and no, I'm not trying to offend the author, but it was, some of the conclusions were, I think, way off. So, for example, and I'm going to declare what's wrong. And with it said, it's still a good read. Okay, it gets the mind juices flowing, if that makes any sense. It starts off explaining that immediately following the 2026 midterms, that Congress went straight after the filibuster. The Senate did, and they did so under the leadership of Senate Majority Leader Mark Kelly, which for me, at least give Chuck Schumer a mention. Hey, he was unpopular, and so he decided to call on new leadership to lead the Senate. I don't think that would happen. Yes, is he unpopular? Sure, but he's still a power player, and I don't think people understand. A lot of Americans don't understand the dynamic of the power structure within the Senate. It's very different from in the House. In the House, it's you've got a lot of moving parts. You do have various factions within each party. Of course, you've got the caucuses. You have various things that can adjust the power structure. But in the Senate, I mean, it's old school. Okay, it's old school money. The whole reason nobody in the Senate, outside of probably John Thune, and maybe not even him, nobody in the Senate, no Republican in the Senate actually liked Mitch McConnell. Okay, I mean, nobody did. Yeah, but he had accumulated over the decades a whole bunch of power, especially with his PACs, especially with his ability to sway and to manipulate. And it wasn't just in the Senate. He was an extraordinarily powerful member of the Republican establishment, the Uniparty swamp. Okay, and just ask Madison Cawthorn. Madison Cawthorn came out there sort of, I don't know if it was unintentional or if it was just nonchalant off the cuff, but basically, he's a congressman, not even in the Senate. He's a congressman who said on a podcast, hey, yeah, so I was propositioned to come to these sex parties, and senators who were doing cocaine were talking to me about stuff, and yeah, it's crazy how things are here. He's young, naive, he's in his 20s at the time, maybe still is. He's very young, and Mitch McConnell didn't like it, so he got him primaried out. That's the power behind it. And so the notion of Chuck Schumer just being summarily removed from his leadership role in the Senate is, I think, off. But hey, this is a thought experiment. You could say whatever you want, right? And in this particular thought experiment, after the Democrats win the 2026 midterms, take control of the Senate, they move Mark Kelly into that role. All right, so that's the first thing they do. He kills the filibuster, which I do think will happen, but I don't think it'll happen immediately. Uh, I don't think it'll be the first thing they do. They won't need to, not with President Trump still in office. Why kill the filibuster knowing that you're still not going to have enough votes to overcome a veto? So you could pass all the legislation you want. It's all going to be kabuki theater, and as long as President Trump is in the Oval Office. So anyway, again, it's easy for somebody who didn't write this 2,500 word essay, basically, to rip on the details, and anybody can. So let's just get that out of the way up front. Anybody can rip on the details. The concept, though, I do believe is strong. In this, as a result of the Democrats taking control of the House and the Senate, they are able to push certain things through. But the most important thing that they're able to push through, of course, is on day one of the 2027 congressional term, they instantly go after President Trump and impeach him. That's very, very clear, not a bold prediction. That's going to happen because there are only two things that they can do to engage in action for this. And the whole idea here, let's not forget that after a midterm election, once the opposition party takes control, which almost always happens, once they take control of the House, the Senate, or both, then everything is geared towards the following election. Every action they take is geared specifically for making sure that their party wins the next presidential election. And so they will go after Trump in two ways, and the only two ways that they can do it and without getting their legislation vetoed. Every piece of legislation would get vetoed, right? But the two things they can do is, number one, they can impeach him, which they will. They will go right after it again, and no, he won't be convicted in the Senate, but that doesn't matter because, it's just the optics and the distraction and the keeping Trump engaged in this or that or whatever. And but the other way, and this is where we get into something that I had not fully considered. I thought about it, but now I realize that this is I don't know if I would say likely, but it has a good chance. We'll say 20-30% chance of coming true. And that's the idea of them shutting down the government. And you might think, why would the Democrats take control of Congress and then instantly shut down the government? Won't the American people? No, the American people won't know. What they'll do is, if they have control of the House and the Senate, and this is the scenario, by the way, in which they actually would get rid of the filibuster, is they would pass budgets that completely upend Trump's agenda. Okay, they would okay, Kyle, cool, time to get this budget, this omnibus, this whatever, over to the president's desk, and it's just going to defund ICE or whatever. It'll do various things that are sticking points for the American people. And if President Trump doesn't sign it, which he won't, then yeah, there's a government shutdown. And of course, with their lapdog legacy media, it will be positioned of, hey, Congress passed a budget. This is what the people voted for. This is the budget. That's why they gave them the House and the Senate. They voted against the Trump agenda. They voted for this agenda. This is the agenda the American people want. They pass it. Trump won't sign it. That's the narrative. Now, the essay continues on with the parts where I wholeheartedly disagree. Like he claims that Hakeem Jeffries will not be popular in the House. He won't be bold enough, and they'll oust him and put in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as Speaker of the House. Call me old school, but that sounds ridiculous to me. But hey, again, I'm not the one writing this bold essay, so it's easy for me to sit back and critique. Then it moves on to the 2028 election. In this scenario, it's J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio are going after each other, and as a result, Ron DeSantis emerges and actually wins the primary, picks Nancy Mace as his running mate, and then they summarily lose. And this one I vehemently disagree with. They summarily lose to, guess who? Michelle Obama. Yeah. Again, I don't think she cares. I think that she's out. She's out of not public life, but she's out of politics. She just wants to focus on becoming a grandma or whatever. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe all of this is just a show. And that's sort of how it's positioned. It's like, hey, the Barack and Michelle Obama are sort of splitting up. That's the narrative. Jennifer Aniston or whatever, right? That's what everybody's been not talking about much, but it's been out there. And they do seem to be living completely separate lives. That's true. And so the notion here is that, in a beautiful American story of reconciliation, they come back together. Michelle runs for president and makes Barack Obama her vice president, and they beat J.D. Vance Ron DeSantis in a landslide, and now Obama's are back in the White House just with the roles reversed. It's a scenario a lot of people have talked about in the past. It's not like a new concept. Again, I don't see that even coming close to happen. But let's take the Obama scenario out of the equation. Let's assume that as a result of the massive chaos that would happen from a government shutdown, okay, because that's really what this is about. If this scenario, that portion of the scenario plays out, then the rest of it doesn't matter. It could be Obama in the White House. It could be Gavin Newsom. It could be Oprah Winfrey. It could be, whoever, Zoran Mamdani, AOC, insert whatever Democrat, because in this scenario, the idea is that the Democrats will go for a shutdown. President Trump will veto it 5, 10, 15 times. Maybe eventually he'll sign it just because executive action alone won't be enough to keep the entire government funded. They've been trying to jump through hoops just to keep DHS employees getting paid, right, through executive action since that shutdown's ongoing. Now imagine if it's the entirety of government. Imagine if if they just stop paying everybody, and not just for days or weeks, but for months at a time. President Trump might actually have to cave. He might have to say, all right, fine, and he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't, because if he doesn't cave in that scenario, then the shutdown continues, and America is destroyed quickly. Like, our economy would fall apart, chaos would ensue, and Democrats would be sitting there saying, look, we're passing bills. We're passing President Trump's got it sitting on his desk. This is what the American people voted for. He keeps vetoing it. This is his fault. This is the Republicans. This is his fault, all setting up for the 2028 election. Even as America, the chaos that's ensuing in this scenario, America does start to burn. And maybe it burns very quickly, right? That's scenario number one, that a sustained government shutdown in 2027 going into 2028 would start to destroy America very rapidly. And then there's the scenario where President Trump says, okay, fine, I veto these. The people are suffering too much. I hate the entirety of this budget. It's calling for wokeness and DEI. It's calling to defund this and reinstate USAID. Get that back on the table. I hate all of this, but I can't let the people suffer, so I'm going to have to sign this reluctantly. And he does. In that scenario, it's still the destruction of America. It's still the destruction of America, just a little bit slower. Then we go back to Biden-style policies, and Trump's hand is forced, and at this point he's just so frustrated. He's watching the nation burn under his watch, and of course it's not his fault in that scenario, but to the history is written by the victors, right? And in this case, well, the victors would be the Democrats, and Wikipedia and history books will show that Trump tried, but he couldn't keep it all together, and as a result of, well, they won't even declare that it's a result of Democrat actions. They'll try to spin it in a way that says that the Democrats were being righteous and Trump was trying to stop them, and as a result, he created the downfall of America. And of course, in that scenario, we are, hey, in the end times, so I'm all happy. Not just the end times, I mean the end times. Like, this is it. This is the end of the United States of America, and I'm not happy about that. I'm happy that, hey, the very glorious silver lining of such a scenario is that would mean that we're here, we're done, we're ready, bring it. It's time. And you might say there's going to be many of you out there that would point to, right, but the book of Revelation and all these prophecies and all of the end time scenarios, they don't really necessarily involve America. This is all about the Middle East. This is all about Israel and their neighbors and all that stuff. That's fine. Either way, it's still, this would answer the question that many people have asked over the millennia. Or, well, I guess they've only been asking this particular question for the last couple hundred years, maybe the last 50 years. But, why is America not in the Bible? Some will argue that it is in the Bible. I think there's a chance that we're Mystery Babylon, a very good chance that we are. And, okay, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, in that scenario, let's say we are Mystery Babylon. This could be a good precursor explanation to how that could be. We often, wasn't very long ago, 5, 10, 15 years ago, when very few people, even in the skeptical world, thought that America was on the verge of collapse, and yet here we are. Not as a result of what's happening today, but as a result of what would happen if the Save America Act wasn't passed, which is, by the way, and I hate to give spoilers to this article, but that's the conclusion. I mean, that's the punchline. It's like you go through all these scenarios. Supreme Court gets packed. There's chaos. America is crumbling, and all of this could have been avoided if the Senate had just passed the Save America Act, which is that part is absolutely true. This isn't about just winning or losing elections. For as long as I've been a politically conscious adult, I have heard every single midterm election is the biggest midterm election of our lifetimes. Every one of them has allegedly been this, right? It's always the worst. It's always the most important. This is the biggest. This is the one that's going to have the most consequences. And most of the time it's not true. You have to go back to the 90s to midterm election 94, where there was an actual full-blown consequence outside of Congress becoming an obstruction to the sitting president. There's a cycle with all these things. I'm not going to go into it. Most of you, I'm sure, already realize this. But here's the thing. In this particular midterm year, I will, for the first time ever, say, yes, this is the most important midterm election in our lifetimes. Because this isn't just about the Trump agenda. Usually people will say that this is the big midterm because the president is doing this, or the president needs to be stopped, depending upon their perspective. If the commentator likes the current president, they'll say if we don't protect the midterms, then the Reagan agenda or the Bush agenda or the Trump agenda will be derailed, and we can't allow that because we're doing so much, we're getting so close, and or in the opposite, as we saw during 2010, which was a consequential year, by the way, as far as midterms, but it wasn't the end all, because back then they were saying, we've got to stop Obama, and the only way we can do it is to take back control of the House and the Senate, and we've got to figure out a way to reverse. It looks like they're going to pass Obamacare, and it's going to bankrupt us within 3 years if we don't do something about it. And the only way we can do that is by voting in the midterms. And I remember those narratives. And again, that was a very consequential midterm, but it was part of a cycle. This one's out of cycle for multiple reasons. This particular midterm is out of cycle because this isn't Trump's first. This is his second term, which second-term presidents for the last 5 decades have not enjoyed majorities in the House or the Senate. Okay? This is the first time in a very long time where a president gets 2 shots, 2 full, at least 2-year portions of their time in the White House to get legislation passed because their party controls the House and the Senate. And here we are. You can rip on Congress all you want. I do it all the time. But they haven't done anything. They haven't done much. And then we can go back and explain, well, it's because of the filibuster. Okay, well, then let's get rid of the filibuster. Then we can get into that long debate over and over again. I don't want to do that, not at least during this particular segment. So that's the scenario that we're facing. And that makes it relatively common to most past scenarios. What makes this one different is, as what's his name, Steve Warren over at Conservative Playlist details, what makes this particular one compelling is because if the Democrats do take control of the House and the Senate, yes, they'll go after impeachment, but more importantly, there's a good chance that they will initiate a government shutdown because they know that they won't get blamed for it. They will pass budgets. It just won't be budgets that President Trump would be willing to sign, at least not at first. And this is the crumbling. This is how, in 2027, the full-blown downfall of the United States of America would start. The rest of this stuff, Michelle Obama, AOC, everything else in the article, you can read it, enjoy it. It's great, great speculative, call it fictional, hypothesizing, is that a word? Whatever, speculation. It's good speculation, speculative writing about what could happen. And it's enjoyable. But again, I didn't like it because I don't read stuff like this for enjoyment. I want to be enlightened. And the takeaway out of it all, the important part here for me is that if the Democrats are able to win the midterms, it will be because John Thune was unwilling and unable. It's not one or either, it's both. Unwilling and unable to pass the Save America Act. If he doesn't, then there will be consequences in this midterms, and these consequences will affect us for the rest of our existence. And that existence, under this scenario, may be a lot shorter than we realize. There was a time not too long ago when pretty much every conservative host, podcaster, website, they all had MyPillow codes. Those were the glory days. Of course, there's been saturation in the market. Most people who were going to ever buy a MyPillow have already bought one. And so a lot of people have stopped promoting the company. We will always promote the company because I love Mike Lindell. I consider him a friend. The company itself is still just as all-American as it's always been, and the quality of the merchandise, the pillows, the Giza Dream Sheets, the mattress toppers, all of that stuff is still absolutely phenomenal. So we are not going to abandon MyPillow. I strongly encourage you to go to mypillow.com/JDR. Those are my initials. mypillow.com/JDR. Use promo code JDR. And take advantage of this amazing company. Support them, support us, and God bless America. Americans are split between three groups of people right now when it comes to artificial intelligence. According to Axios, there are the power users, which are obviously those who are deeply embedded, utilizing AI, oftentimes on a technical level. But even a lot of people use it on a daily basis without having any technical knowledge at all. They just use AI to guide them. And I don't know if you'd call them necessarily power users. That's really not the right label for them. But they still fall into that category because they use and in many ways adore artificial intelligence. In the middle, which is most people, you have the skeptics. And these skeptics, that's not to say they're so skeptical that they don't use AI. It's just that they're skeptical about the future. They're skeptical about what AI is going to turn into. They're skeptical about its impact on the world, and they're skeptical about whether or not it's legitimate. Is it going to really empower or not? Is it going to destroy us or not? This is, I would say, we're the vast majority, maybe not vast, a majority of Americans fall into that category. We'll call this a 20-60-20 issue. That other 20%, these are the AI doomers. These are the people who think that artificial intelligence is going to destroy the human race or destroy America or enslave us or whatever. This is the, again, it's oddly, you would think that it would be a reducing number, but it's not. It's actually growing according to the polls. More and more people are coming to the conclusion that AI is the demise of something big, whether it's America, Western society, or the entire world. They think AI is going to kill or enslave or a combination of the two. And, I should know that there's definitely another set of doomers out there who believe it's not going to kill or enslave us, not in the short term and not in the quick sense of both of those words, but that it will become so ubiquitous, so important, and so ingrained into Western society and possibly the entire world that we become dependent upon it. we no longer do pretty much anything. And I would argue that that's the camp where I fall into. Now, I say this, and call me a hypocrite, but I utilize AI regularly. Okay, I mean, I do. I use it to generate images. I use it to help to research articles. I use it for a lot of stuff. And yes, I will use it to help me map out a diet plan. I just recently did this, so AI has that divisiveness to it, and there's a play going right now for trying to convince the skeptics, that majority in the middle, trying to pull them into one camp or the other. But it really comes down to, and we have this posted over at economiccollapse.report. The real divide is not between those who love AI, those who hate AI, those who are sort of in the middle, not sure about AI. It really comes down to a binary choice. There's going to be, and this is how it's shaping, it's not necessarily the state of the world now, but it's the state that the world is going to be in the very near future. It's the divide between the techno-elite and everyone else. And those who are not participating actively and aggressively in the artificial intelligence world will fall under the category of everyone else, even if they use AI. As a matter of fact, the more they use AI, the more they become like everyone else. There's never been a more complex and yet simple to understand view of the future world than when we apply the artificial intelligence factor into the equation. Fast forward, if you will, to the assumed near future reality where artificial intelligence is ingrained in most, if not nearly all, aspects of human life. And you might say that's never going to happen, except it will. Like, there's not going in the near future. You're not going to be able to find pretty much anything that is not in some way directly influenced or even controlled by artificial intelligence. And that's the direction that most people are sort of, I wouldn't say pushing for, but accepting readily. Even Amazon, look at Amazon. They're making an investment, or they've made an investment of $200 billion to basically, with the primary purpose of all those investments being to redesign their website. You might think, what? That doesn't make any sense. They've got a great website. It's one of the most popular websites in the world. Why would they do this? And the answer is because they realize that AI is the future, and the future, the creeping future. In other words, it's already partially integrated into pretty much everything. And so it will have full integration soon. And Amazon had two choices: either take the existing platform and layer it with artificial intelligence, or build it from scratch. So you have a website that, a company built around a website and an app that basically that generates billions of dollars annually. And they're ready to revamp from the bottom up, investing huge money into making a new version of Amazon that is very much different from the one that's already currently working extremely well. It ain't broke now, today, but they also realize that in the future, if you aren't properly integrated with AI, then you're not going to survive. They see this not as an advancement of profits. They see this as a path to survival. They believe that they will go the way of Blockbuster Video when streaming started hitting. Okay? If Blockbuster would be alive today, they had the money, they had the resources, they had the physical locations. They very easily could have pivoted and started going towards streaming. But they saw streaming, instead of something to embrace, they saw it as an enemy, and they thought they could fight it. And of course, we know how that ended. It's funny because I'm sure many of you know the story, but at one point, Blockbuster actually had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million. And they laughed, literally laughed, at the prospect of buying this little mailing video company for $50 million. Now, obviously, if they'd made that transaction, they would definitely be alive today. But you know, that's Amazon's concern, is that even though Blockbuster was at the top of the movie world for decades, they fell very quickly because they didn't adapt to the changing world. Amazon feels the same, and they're not wrong in that regard. So again, picture in this near future scenario where AI is integrated into pretty much everything. You know, we've all heard and talked about how jobs are getting replaced. That's going to increase, and you've got the other people, the optimists, who say yes, jobs will be increased, but jobs will be taken, but new jobs will pop up that will be utilizing AI, and it's going to, you know, it'll be a wash, or there's not going to be much loss or whatever. That's a bald-faced lie. Okay, I don't care what you do. It's not whether or not you can be replaced. It's just a question of time. Some jobs are being replaced today, and those jobs are the ones that are already attuned and can be replaced by the current iteration of artificial intelligence. But artificial intelligence is growing so rapidly. Robotic technology is expanding so thoroughly that it would be naive to think that any job in America, any job in the world, could not eventually be replaced. Maybe some of them are so necessary for humans to do it that it might take 2 decades for that job to be replaced. But all of them can be replaced. Now, I'm not suggesting, by the way, that all of the jobs will be replaced anytime soon. Okay? This is going to be, it's going to be a steady, I wouldn't even say it's a creep, because it is going to be thorough. It's going to be widespread. The numbers are going to be high. But it's not going to be like sudden. It's going to be just a steady increase of the use of AI and robotics and the replacement of human operators. What they're not telling you, and they being the techno-elites, the people that are that Axios called power users. What they're not telling you, and in some cases it's because they're truly naive to this, but I would say in most cases it's because they don't want you to know, it's that there's going this divide between the techno-elite and the everybody else. This divide is going to be based upon not necessarily your knowledge of AI. It's going to be based upon your resources to control aspects of the artificial intelligence global infrastructure. Now, if you're a Bible-believing Christian and you hear those words, the first thing that should come to your mind is, oh, so basically like a one world government, a new world order, that sort of thing. One world economy. That's exactly what it is. And even if you're not a Bible-believing Christian, this falls under the category of what conspiracy theorists have been warning about for a very long time. It is the global takeover. It'll be controlled by little fiefdoms that are already forming, and those fiefdoms that are forming will be, each one of them will be part of these 10 regional, well, I guess if you're secular, you're not going to believe this, but I'll sprinkle some Bible into it. These fiefdoms will be controlled by 10 regional powers, and those 10 regional powers will be controlled by a centralized world government. And Bible-believing Christians will know who's going to be in charge of that world government. Now, I'm saying all these things as if they're certainty, and you're probably sitting there saying, oh no, he can't know this is true. I'm talking about the current path combined with what we know from the Bible. So yes, it is definitely speculative, but it's probably the easiest assumption to make when it comes to Bible prophecy that has ever been made. Okay? Like, this is so blatant, so obvious, so in our face that the only way that you can deny it is if, number one, if you have information that I don't have, which is definitely possible, or number two, if you're, well, not paying attention. I'll be kind. If you're not paying attention. And we're already seeing the groundwork being laid for how they will be able to control the people. Henry Kissinger said, who controls the money supply can control the world. And this is the path that we're heading down. And when you control the money supply, you can control the people, and yes, you can control the food. Okay, and then if you control all those things, you can control the energy. It's all coming together so stinkingly nicely that it's disgusting, and yet elegant. It's in many ways it's very, very encouraging, because it does mean the exciting news that it does appear this is the pathway through which the prophecies of the Bible, referring to the latter days, referring to the end times, they are pointing to this moment. And that's awesome to somebody who believes that, despite the suffering that's going to happen in this moment, that we will soon, possibly within our lifetimes, likely, depending on how old you are, likely within our lifetimes, we will see the amazing promises after the enemy is defeated. Now, I know if that's the case, then that means that a lot of us will die. So I laugh as if that's funny. It's not funny. That was a nervous laughter. But yeah, and I'm not going to get into, you can hold whatever rapture beliefs you want. I'm not going to get into that. A lot of you, maybe most of you, who are listening today, believe that before all these crazy things truly take place, that you will be raptured off the earth. That's fine. You can think that way. But know this, that the Bible doesn't say there will be no suffering. In other words, you might think, oh, we're not going to face tribulation. That doesn't mean the precursor to tribulation won't be pretty darn painful. I can assure you that if you were living in Nigeria right now as a Christian, or if you're living in South Africa right now as a Christian, you're not sitting there thinking, oh, this is fine. It's going to get really bad before the tribulation. It'll be really bad before the rapture, but I'll get raptured off, and in the meantime, things are hunky-dory. They're not thinking things are hunky-dory, okay? They fear for their lives. So, are they facing a form of tribulation? You betcha. Point I'm trying to make is that don't think to yourself, oh, none of this concerns me. We will all face some sort of totalitarian regime, I believe, before the end comes, regardless of your view of the rapture. And the control that I had mentioned earlier through money is coming alive in the form of pushes right now. These are quiet, but still public. Quiet pushes right now to go ahead and pre-establish what they call a social welfare system, where we're spending less money on humans doing work and more money on just taking care of humans. They're not going to be needed soon. That those people that fall into the everyone else category, the elites, the techno-elites, they're going to be the ones that are pulling the strings, setting the direction, reaping the rewards, and everyone else will kind of be lost. They'll like starve and they'll riot. So we got to figure out a way to make sure that they're okay, that they're taken care of. Just let the techno-elites and AI take care of everything for you. You can just enjoy life. You can paint, you can read, you can travel, as long as you do so within the constraints of travel restrictions. You'll be able to do a whole lot of things. You can play video games. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? You can just sit around and do nothing. You can just eat. We'll make sure that you have plenty of ultra processed foods. I know I'm painting an ugly picture, but this is the picture that they are painting themselves. Maybe not with the ugly processed foods, but this is what they're envisioning. And this is what they're planning for. It's the equivalent of or I shouldn't say equivalent of, it's a rebranded version of universal basic income. That's basically what they're talking about. When they say expanded social welfare programs, what they're saying is a whole lot of people aren't going to be able to work because we're going to replace them with AI and robots. Therefore, we got to figure out a way so that they don't die. Because if things get too bad for people, then they're going to revolt, and we're going to have to either put them down or they'll somehow break through our AI robot assassins and take us out. And we don't want that. So before the turmoil hits, we better prepare to pay people for doing nothing, to pay people for being useless eaters. This is already in the mix. This is already in the plans. And again, they're not talking about it a lot, but they are talking about it. They're talking about it very openly, and talking about it in ways that's funny because this is how they think. Their perceptions of the world really is broken down into two parts. They themselves, the techno-elite, believe that it will be them on top and everyone else below them. And this is why they're hastening the growth. Even those who are skeptical, who have sounded the alarm bells and said, we need to slow down. Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, used to say that. Elon Musk, Grok CEO, used to say that. You even have the people who are in charge of basically making sure that AI is safe. They're not hitting the brakes. They're saying we need to be careful. We need to, instead of saying let's slow down, they're saying keep going, and the thing we gotta speed up are the regulations. The thing that we have to speed up is the infrastructure. The thing that we have to speed up, we need more nuclear plants. It's going to take a while. So in the meantime, we got to get more energy through the standard grid, and we got to figure out how to build the grid, and we got to figure out how to maybe even get off the grid. Need more data centers, more data centers, more data centers, more data centers. And in order to do that, they need power. And they know that they can't just control all the energy, not yet, at least, that the people will once again revolt if it's like, okay, well, there's not enough power for you because we need it over here. Yeah, people won't buy that. They won't accept it. Or if their electric bills start doubling, tripling, 10x, no, they're not going to accept that. Unless it's slow, unless it creeps, in which case they probably will. And that's, I'm sure, part of the plan. I'm going to read you a paragraph from the article over at economiccollapse.report. OpenAI itself has quietly acknowledged the scale of the disruption ahead. The company released a policy paper it calls Industrial Policy for the Industrial Age, or for the Intelligence Age, which proposes, among other things, a national wealth fund, shifting more of the tax burden from labor to capital and broad social safety net expansion. And what that's telling us is that they know that they're replacing us. And they think that they're being, it basically, I don't know if it's it's probably a combination, but I don't know if it's that they think, you know what, there's going to be repercussions and we need to prepare for those. We need to make sure to take care of people so that our technology doesn't do harm. Okay? I think that's what they want us to think. That's what they say publicly. But I'm wondering if deep down it's like, you know what? We gotta really control the lessers. We gotta control, the other animals. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others, and we're definitely more equal than others as the techno-elite. So we got to make sure to give the lessers just enough, just enough to where they don't revolt, because we still need people for something. Or maybe, we need people to not revolt until we have a way to protect ourselves from them, because, they're just people. I know I sound cynical. I know I sound doomerish. And I know I'm a hypocrite for using AI and then trying to warn about it. But again, the writing is on the wall. This isn't a false positive. You didn't hear me out there saying saying, oh my gosh, barcodes. Barcodes are the mark of the beast. You didn't hear me saying, oh my gosh, it's a blood moon. That means that the apocalypse is near. You never hear me setting dates. You don't hear me saying, oh my gosh, the whatever. Most of the things that we've claimed, we being in the biblical conspiracy theory world, if you will, many of the things that we've claimed, I would say, nearly all, haven't come true. And that's why I don't really say them. If I can't really get a full confirmation, or at least not necessarily confirmation, but if I can't get a legitimate, oh yeah, this is it. If I can't get that, I might mention a story, but I'm never going to be dogmatic about it. And I'm always going to be put in my disclaimers and alert people that this probably isn't going to happen, or that's probably not going to happen. In this case, I do believe this is it.
It will shock you how much it never happened.
Stock up now on long-term storage meds, whether it's chronic meds, antibiotics, whatever. Go to jdrucker.com/meds, jdrucker.com/meds. All right, I'm on day 10 of my extended water fast, and I have come to the conclusion as a result that every prepper should be doing this, and almost every prepper. A lot of preppers shouldn't. And I'll explain that here in a second, which preppers should not be doing extended water fasts. But I would say most, at least many, but possibly most preppers should at the very least look into it. Now, let me give some caveats real quick. I am on day 10 of a water fast. It's a full-blown just water, and I do drink coffee, okay? Full-blown water fast with no food. I do take electrolytes. That's important, super important. 0-calorie electrolytes, so it doesn't affect my fast. But I do mine open-ended. I monitor my blood pressure, my blood sugar, my ketones, how I feel. Do I feel lightheaded when I stand up? Is my face turning purple? Anything like that. Anything that might indicate, hey, it's time to stop. That's what I go by. My longest water fast was 15 days. I felt great throughout. I felt great on day 15. The only reason I stopped, it would have gone longer. The only reason I stopped was because a business partner called and said, hey, I'll be in town. We got to get together. It's like, okay. It's like, I know this great place over here, and we need to go there and have lunch. It's like, okay. He's like, I already invited Mark. We're going. Oh, okay. And it's like, I'll be there. And I asked my wife, I said, would it be rude if I were to go to this meeting and just order water, meet with them, but then they eat and I don't? And she kind of gave me a weird look and started blinking. She's like, yeah, of course that would be rude. I don't know why you would even ask that. Got to try. So I cut that one off a little bit short, but it was a good one. It was great. We'll see how long this one goes. But anyway, so some disclaimers real quick. Number one, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just offering my advice based upon, it's not, let me backtrack there. Don't use the word advice. I'm offering my opinion. There we go. I'm not advising anybody. Don't take my advice. I'm offering my opinion based upon my experiences and some thinking that I've been doing. And that's why I'm doing this segment today. Number two, before doing any fast, you should consult your doctor. Okay? If you're going to be doing a 24-hour fast, consult your doctor. Just find out what they think, get their perspectives, and make sure that you take advantage of their alleged medical prowess. Number three, it is widely recommended, even amongst fasters, okay, widely recommended that if you're going to be doing an extended water fast, anything for some say 3 days, some say 5 days, but anything that's going to be a longer term water fast, you should consider, maybe even definitely do so under full medical supervision. That means going to one of those clinics. There's various clinics across the country where you can go and they will monitor you. They will not feed you. There's no meal plan at these clinics, but they will monitor you. They will help you along. They'll encourage you, I guess. I don't know. They'll check to make sure that you're staying healthy, and they will pull the plug on your fast whenever it is necessary. So that is, and I've got nothing against it, from I guess from a cost perspective, maybe, but and I don't know how much they cost, to be clear. But if I had a lot of money, I probably would take advantage of one of those because it does. It sounds great, you know. I'd much rather do that than have to check myself, throughout the day. They always say check these things daily. I check like every 3 or 4 hours. So that's how I roll. But yeah, if they recommend anything that's going to be extended to take advantage of a full-blown, full medical supervision at these clinics, and I've got nothing against that whatsoever. I think that's all the caveats. Oh, one last one. So this advice is for those who are fat. Period. If you are unhealthy, I'm sorry, if you are healthy, and not overweight, if you're lean, mean, fighting machine, already ready to go fight against the whoever is bringing the apocalypse, and you don't have a whole lot of body fat, it does not make sense for you to do an extended fast. You can do different types of fasts. There's plenty out there that can be very beneficial for you. But during an extended water fast, you do start to lose muscle mass. Okay? And if you have, and that's if you're fat. Okay? If you have very little fat to burn during this fast, then your body's going to go straight to option three. Okay? Option one, your body uses, sugars, right? It uses glucose as your primary energy source. If you stop feeding your body glucose, if you're on the ketogenic diet or if you're fasting, then it goes to your stored energy source, which is fat. If you don't have enough fat, it goes to the backup source, which is muscle. So you don't want to do that, okay? Again, when I say I'm not offering advice, just when I am a lean, mean fighting machine ready to fight whoever is bringing the apocalypse, then I will stop these extended fasts. I'll still do fasts, 24, 36, 48, maybe even 72-hour fasts. But I definitely won't do these extended ones because you will burn. You're going to do damage to your body as a result. In my humble opinion, not a medical professional. All right, caveats out of the way. So I've got 3 reasons, right? 3 things that I came up with that these are why I believe preppers should be, if you fall under the criteria, if you're fat preppers will say, and I'm not trying to offend anybody out there, but look, let's face it. If you're fat, you're fat. Look, I'm fat, okay? I could stand to lose 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds. Not 100, but that would make me way too small. But I could lose some weight, a lot of weight. And so that's one of the reasons that I fast. But it's not the only reason. So if you are, like me, if you're a fat prepper, then you should consider doing an extended water fast. And here's why. Number 1, if you're fat, it helps to get healthier, okay? There are so many benefits. It's not just about losing weight, okay? And for the record, on day 10, I'm down 17 pounds. A lot of that I will gain right back as soon as I'm done with my fast because a lot of that is water and glucose, okay? Glucagon. So I haven't lost 17 pounds. I've lost a little bit less than that. I don't know how much. It's sort of like a roll the dice. After my fast, I'll go and check and see where I weigh at the end of the fast, and then see how much I weigh 3 days after the fast. And it's like, okay, so I gained 4 pounds back. Not bad. I'll take that. I've gained more. Well, no, I guess 4 was the minimum, but I have gained more than that back through water and maybe a little bit of overeating on day 3. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So it's not just about losing weight. It is about doing the things, taking advantage of the benefits that come with extended water fast. Blood pressure. Your blood pressure goes down. I have slightly elevated blood pressure, and I've been monitoring. My blood pressure has gone down very, very nicely. I mean, like more than I would have expected, okay, as a result of fasting. And if you do it right, if you have certain types of reasoning behind your blood pressure, which most people do, there's I don't want to get into conspiracy theories or black holes about what blood pressure really is and what's really causing it. But I will say that my blood pressure is based upon my lifestyle, and I would say most people's are. And as a result, this fasting can help to reduce that blood pressure. And it's not just because of the fast itself. It actually does take out a little bit of your blood pressure in the long term if you do it right, and especially if you extend, after your water fast, if you start extending still into a healthy lifestyle, you don't just jump back into eating burgers and burritos. Then you're going to get huge benefit from that. It also reduces insulin resistance and thereby reduces your blood sugar, which can be hugely beneficial. I could go. There's a huge list. Okay, I'm not going to go down it today. You can go to Google or AI and ask what are the health benefits of water fasting. There you go. That'll tell you all the things. Talk about autophagy. Talk about gut reset, hormonal reset, reduced inflammation, a very important one. It'll tell you all that stuff. So if you are a prepper and you believe that at some point in the future, there's a good chance that we will be in a crap hits the fan situation and you have to be prepared for it. Okay, well, it's better to be prepared for it when you're healthy and skinny and lean and ready to go, especially if you're stuck in a bug out situation, right? If you're bugging in, I think a lot of people can feel a little bit at ease if they're not healthy. But you don't want to be a burden on your family. You don't want to be a burden to yourself. You don't want to be unable to go fight the evil apocalypse bringers, whoever they are, unable to defend your family, unable to forage, to hunt if necessary, to do any of those things. You don't want to be that guy that you got all the skills, all the knowledge, all the guns, all the whatever, but you can't walk half a mile without having to sit down and be a target. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Don't be that whatever. So get healthy. I had one guy. This was so sad. It's not sad. I'll tell you why it's sad here in a second, but let me tell the story first. There was a guy who I would say borderline, maybe fully morbidly obese, and he was dieting. He was trying to lose weight. And he explained to me, he's like, yeah, I'm going to get down to about 280 and I'm going to stop. And I'm like, what? If you're going to go all the way to 280, why not go all the way down, to a healthy weight? He's like 280 is my target weight because at 280, I'll still have my camel's hump. And he's pointing down at his stomach. I'll still have my camel's hump. And when the crap hits the fan, and he used different wording, but when the crap hits the fan, I will be better off than everybody else because I'll have my food storage ready to go. I'll have all this fat energy that I'll be able to use, and other people will be starving and dying, and I'll be fine. And it's like, okay, well, but that almost makes sense until you take into consideration the 37 negative impacts to preparedness and to your health that come with being 280 pounds. He was about 6'1", I'd say. I mean, not like huge, but that would be still fat. And so, I'm like, that's not a good idea. Now, the sad part about all that is that as he's explaining his logic to me for about, I don't know, somewhere between 4 and 8 seconds, I'm like, huh. No. I actually thought, man, it's not a horrible idea. No, it is a horrible idea. You want to be as healthy as possible before the apocalypse comes. Just figure that out. Number 2, beyond the health, you want to be preparing your body, your mind, your soul, and your emotions, really, for the ability to fast, even if you don't want to. Especially if we are stuck in a bug out situation, or if, let's say, even if you're bugging in and you have your food supplies start to look like they're going to run dry, and maybe in the near future, being that guy or that girl who can fast for an extended period of time, who's already had experience with it, you understand how it works, you know how your body's going to react to it. You can be the guy that actually voluntarily fasts in order to ration your own food if you're out on the go, in order to preserve your food supply, allow your kids and anybody elderly or your wife or whoever to eat food instead of you. Okay. Now, one caveat there, you do get weaker. Okay. You're like, I wouldn't want to get into a fight today with somebody who was my match, because while I'm fasting, yes, I mean, walking up the stairs, my heart beats faster than it normally would. So when you're fasting, it's not like you're in peak physical shape. You can still feel good with normal activities, but you don't want to be fasting in a fight or flight scenario. But if you're not, if things are calmed down, you're holed up, out and about in a place where you can rest. Your family you can stay put with limited apocalyptic stress for days or weeks or even months. Great. Then being able to fast gives you the ability to say, okay, I'm going to preserve food by I'm not going to eat. I'm going to just drink water and not eat for X number of days. And that helps to keep your rations high, keeps your food supply going to the people that need it more. And you might say, well, I don't need to fast now to do that. I'll just do it when it comes. I can assure you that there's a good chance that you will not feel as confident about your ability to just do it if you've never fasted and it's day 2 or 3 and you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is awful. What am I doing? I can't do this. Because that's invariably what happens to most people. I shouldn't say invariably. Some people, I guess there are people out there that just power through it and have no fears. No concerns, no hunger pains, no nothing. But for most of us, that first time you're doing a 2, 3, 4, 5 day fast, it's challenging. It really can be. And practicing it up front makes a whole lot of sense. And then, of course, there's the risk, God forbid, there's the risk that you're stuck in an involuntary fast. Let's say you're a prisoner. Let's say you run out of food. Let's say you're stuck, snow's surrounding your cabin, and you can't get out, and you can't go hunt or forage or anything right now. You're probably not going to be able to do that for a while, and so you got to figure something out. So you fast, or maybe you're captured. There's all sorts of scenarios where it behooves us to fast. Now, reason number 3, and this is, to me, it's the most important reason. For some of you, it might be meaningless. So, and I hope that's not the case for a lot of you. But number 3 is that you do establish, while fasting, you establish a deeper connection with God. Call it the divine, if you will. Call it the spiritual. However you perceive it. To me, it gives me a spiritual connection, a deeper connection with God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. So, and it's been documented throughout in the most important what's the canon, I guess, the most important documents. I don't know how to describe it. It's called the Bible. The Bible tells us that Jesus fasted for 40 days before starting his ministry. The Bible tells us that people like Moses, Esther, they all fasted as before doing something very, very important. And there's a reason for this. These voluntary fasts. Daniel was fasting for 21 days, before the archangel showed up and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We heard you on day 1, but I got tied up. There's the Prince of Persia, stopping me. So thankfully Michael came along and kicked his butt, but I had to, I would have been here like a long time ago. Sorry for any inconvenience. I know you haven't eaten in 21 days, okay? But here we are now. Let me give you your vision, okay, Daniel?" I'm sure that's exactly how it played out. Point being is that fasting is throughout the Bible, and Jesus even talks about it, about the empowerment aspect of it. When his disciples came and said, "Hey, why couldn't we get these possessed people? Why couldn't we exorcise these demons?" And Jesus told them, it's like, there's certain ones, and it's not just with demons. There's certain times, we'll say, when it takes more than just willpower. It takes more than just prayer. It actually takes fasting and supplication to be able to achieve these spiritual goals. And I can tell you, it's true. Okay, this is not. Of course, it's true because it's in the Bible, but it's true because I see it. I feel it. I wish I've looked it up. I've tried every different way. I've asked AI doctors. I won't say I asked doctors. I asked AI doctors. I've watched videos. I've tried to find a way to make it to where I could fast like all the time. Okay, not like one long fast, but like well, what if I did like a 7 day fast and then like 3 days of refeeding and like 3 days of normal eating and then another 7 day fast. All of them keep recommending, nope, you should only do one of those a quarter. It's like, can I at least do it once a month? No. It's like, damn it. I don't actually say that, but I did. But so now I'm on to, you know what, when I'm feeling great, I'll do these extended water fasts. And then I will follow it up with an occasional 2, 3, 5 day water fast. So that's my very loose version. I would love to turn it into a routine, but that just doesn't. The experts, all of them, again, I've looked for somebody, just a something to give me confirmation bias, right? And none of them are out there. They all universally say don't fast as often as I would like, and I would fast all the time, not because of the losing weight, not because of the crap hits the fan preparedness aspect of it. I would do it because of the spiritual connection. Now, for those of you out there, I know some in my audience are not Bible believing Christians. So if you're secular, you're atheist, you're a different religion, maybe you're not buying into a lot of that stuff. Keep in mind there's physiological reasons to believe that there is a, we'll call it a beneficial change. Okay, you will feel it, by day 2 or 3 as far as the mental clarity. Some it might take day 4 or 5, but at some point you will start feeling a strong mental clarity. The cloud goes away, and I remember noting. I told my wife this probably, I don't know, maybe a year ago. I said one time as I'm doing my work, I'm trying to go through and do everything as quickly as I can, not fasting at that point, and I was not able to do it well. I'm like, I just did this like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, what is happening to me? And I like, what is going on? She's like, well, you were fasting before. It's like, duh, of course, duh. Yes, when you are fasting, you do have elevated mental clarity. It's the ketones, it's the norepinephrine, and I believe that it is the heightened connection with the divine. So you might say, well, what does that have to do with prepping? The, my my greatest moments of clarity in recent years, even as it pertains to prepping, have come during fasts. And because I consider it very important, it's like my duty as a man, as the head of my household. It is my duty to make sure that my family is protected. Now, there are those who will say, well, if you're truly spiritual, if you're truly a Christian, then you don't even care about prepping because God will take care of everything. I don't even get me started. Not going to get started on that, but yes, the spiritual aspect of this is, to me, the most important. It enables you to see clearly. You can start seeing potential threats. I've made purchases as a result of these fasts, purchases for prepper items that I never would have even thought of getting. But while I was fasting, the clarity came through, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I better go get me some more paracord. I don't have enough paracord. You'll never have enough paracord, by the way. It's funny because I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about it, and I guess, well, I could have broken this down into body, mind, and spirit. That's really what it is, right? I mean, tip number one, or reason number one, is all about getting healthy. That's for the body. Tip number two, making sure that you can be ready to fast if necessary, if forced to, or if you start running low on rations. That really is about the mind. It's about mental preparedness. And then number three, that's clearly the spirit. So pretty amazing stuff. If you are new to my channel, obviously subscribe, please. If you want to get more prepper information and get more of these podcasts, you can, of course, yes, you'll get notifications through Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. But you can also get email notifications by going to and subscribing to my Substack, lateprepper.substack. No, sorry, I moved it. It's just lateprepper.com. That's right. Lateprepper.com. Sign up there. It's free. We don't charge for a newsletter. Sign up there, and you'll receive whenever I put out new content, new information. I won't spam you. We don't do much. Maybe 2 or 3 a week, maybe 4, probably 2 or 3. And that's it. And you'll be able to keep track of this stuff. And if you want to hear more of my biblical perspectives, one of my other Substacks is Blessed.Report. There we go. Blessed.Report, and that's where my show about the faith is there. So thank you all for listening, and be sure to stay frosty in your preparation journey, and definitely stay alert during your spiritual journey, because we are under attack. There's a spiritual war going on, which I believe will lead to the end times and the rise of the apocalypse. We'll see. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.